This is a plush toy. $30. In June 2025, someone paid $150,000 for one. 10 months later, the company that made it had lost $33 billion, and the bleeding started on the single best day in its history. The morning it announced record profits, the stock fell off a cliff. Record profits, record crash, same week. Everybody's asking how a company that good could fall that fast. Wrong question. The better one is quieter and worse. What if the crash wasn't an accident, but the plan working exactly as designed, just for the wrong side of the table? One decision, made at the top of the mountain, turned a money-printing machine into a bonfire. Stay with me, because you already own the mistake. You just don't know its name yet. Labubu-nomics, the anatomy of a hype economy, built by a gambler, lit by a pop star, and burned down by a spreadsheet. To see the fire coming, meet the man who built the machine. Wang Ning grew up poor in Henan, in a family of shopkeepers. At 19, he opened a grid store outside Zhengzhou, a shop chopped into tiny rented cubbyholes. Within 2 months, a dozen copycats lined the same street. Here's the tell. Most people fight for their patch of ground. Wang did what a gambler does when the odds turn. He didn't fight. He sold the whole thing, about 200,000 yuan, 30 grand, and walked the money to Beijing. In 2010, he spent it on a variety store. Phone cases, stationery, junk. It struggled for years, until Wang noticed one shelf quietly outselling everything else. Little collectible figures. So he ran the Zhengzhou move again, killed every other product, and pushed all his chips onto one square. That store was Mart, and what he built there was never really a toy company. It was a casino you could carry home in a shopping bag. Here's how the casino works, and watch yourself while I explain it. You pay one fixed price for a sealed box, around $20, $30. You don't know which figure is inside until you tear it open. Most are common. And then there's the chase, the secret figure. Seated at odds, Mart discloses itself. For Labubu's flagship plush, 1 in 72. Your brain doesn't process that as shopping. It processes it as a slot machine, the single most compulsion-forming payout pattern scientists have ever studied. You're 2 figures short of the set, so you can't stop. That's loss aversion. You've already spent $40, so what's 40 more? That's sunk cost. And every time you rip the foil on camera, you make a free ad for the machine that's emptying your wallet. Chinese studies of blind box buyers found most of them aren't buying the object at all. They're buying the feeling. A casino charges you to feel it. Mart sold you the slot machine and let you take it home. For 4 years, it printed money. December 2020. That engine took Mart public in Hong Kong. The offering raised $676 million. The stock jumped 79% on day one, closing at a $12.5 billion valuation. Wang Ning, barely into his 30s, was suddenly one of China's youngest billionaires. But then the machine stalled. Regulators circled. By 2022, China forced vendors to disclose the chase odds and banned blind box sales to kids under 8. COVID gutted mall traffic. And the star doll, a pouty thing named Molly, went cold. By October 2022, the stock had fallen roughly 90% from its peak. The market's verdict was brutal and simple. Fad company, fad's over. What saved it wasn't a strategy. It was a monster that had sat ignored in the catalog for years, drawn by a man 7,000 kilometers away. Cassing Lung was born in Hong Kong in 1972 and raised in the Netherlands, where a teacher handed the immigrant kid picture books of Nordic folklore, elves, trolls, forest spirits. Decades later, working as a children's illustrator, he poured that childhood into a series called The Monsters. Its star, debuting in 2015, Labubu, a furry elf with oversized ears and exactly 9 serrated teeth. Remember that number, 9. It becomes the whole story later. Labubu was ugly cute before ugly cute had a name. Not Hello Kitty, something that looks like it might bite you. That was the point. Lung signed with Mart in 2019, and for 4 more years, Labubu sold fine, a respected grail among art toy collectors, nothing that moves a stock price. Then, Mart changed one thing about it, and accidentally invented a new kind of hype. October 2023, Mart shrank Labubu into a plush pendant, a $22 blind box keychain, the exciting macaron line. Sounds small. It was the highest leverage product decision of the decade. Because a figure on your shelf is private. A monster hanging off your handbag is a broadcast. A luxury signal at a fast fashion price. Wearable hype. All that engine needed now was a spark. And the spark had 100 million followers. Her name is Lisa, Blackpink's Thai superstar. 100+ million people watching her Instagram. In April 2024, she started posting Labubu. No sponsorship, by every account. She just loved the thing. Thailand went off first. Pop Mart's Bangkok store reportedly took over 10 million won, $1.4 million, on opening day. By July, the country's tourism board named Labubu an official Amazing Thailand Experience Explorer and welcomed a life-size one at the Bangkok airport, in Thai dress, like a visiting head of state. But then, the contagion went west. Rihanna, Dua Lipa, Kim Kardashian, David Beckham handed one by his daughter. On TikTok, Labubu unboxings crossed 1.5 million posts. The foil tear, the scream when a secret drops. Every clip, another free pull of the lever. Now, the numbers stop making sense. 2024 revenue, 13 billion yuan, up 107%. Then the first half of 2025 alone, 13.9 billion, 6 months out-earning the whole year before. Over 100 million Labubus sold. Nearly 44% of the money now came from outside mainland China. A Chinese brand conquering the West, something almost nobody had pulled off. In May 2025, Pop Mart yanked Labubu from all 16 of its UK stores because grown adults were fighting over restocks. By July, one toothy elf was worth more than Mattel, Hasbro, and Sanrio combined. Barbie, Transformers, and Hello Kitty, stacked together, weighing less. At the August peak, around $54 billion, and Wang Ning the 10th richest person in China. That was the top. And at the top, 2 predators walked in at once. But then came the fakes. The internet called them Lafufu, knockoffs pouring out of small factories in Guangdong and Hebei. Chinese customs seized more than 1.8 million counterfeit dolls in a single year. In Seattle, U.S. officers busted one shipment of 11,000 fakes, declared as LED lights, worth $500,000. Safety regulators warned the fakes shed parts and could choke children. Now here's the twist that should have frightened investors far more than it did. A lot of buyers didn't care. They bought the Lafufu on purpose, happily, at 1/5 of the price. Collectors counted teeth. Everyone else just shrugged. Sit with what that means. When a counterfeit of your product works fine as a substitute, your product was never the product. The hype was, and hype is a currency anyone can print, including, it turns out, the company itself. Because then, staring at empty shelves, Pop Mart made the reasonable, rational spreadsheet decision. It flooded the zone. By late 2025, the factories were pushing out around 30 million plush toys a month, 10 times the year before. And resale prices didn't dip. They collapsed, down half or more. Scalpers panic dumped their hoards. And Pop Mart told investors this was good news. Falling resale prices, they said, just meant real fans could finally buy at retail. Wall Street heard something else entirely, because in a scarcity economy, that resale premium isn't a side effect. It is the asset. The second a Labubu can be bought anytime, anywhere at sticker price, it stops being a lottery ticket and becomes what it physically always was, a $30 toy. Within weeks of the peak, $13 billion of value simply evaporated, which drops us back into that brain-breaking week, March 2026. Pop Mart reports full year 2025 revenue of 37.1 billion yuan, up 185%. Adjusted profit up 284%. The best annual report it ever filed. The stock falls 22% in a day. By April, the rout hits 33 billion, nearly 60% off the top. Why? Open the report. Labubu's family of characters was almost 40% of all revenue. Everything leaning on one monster. Search interest had been sliding since the previous summer. Sell-through was slowing, and there was no second Labubu anywhere in the pipeline. Investors weren't pricing last year's genius. They were pricing next year's dependence. So here's the sharp version of the whole thing. Pop Mart was never a tour company. It was a central bank. The blind box is a banknote, $30 at the window, and the secondary market, not Pop Mart, pays out the jackpots that make the gamble worth it. That system runs on exactly one rule: disciplined issuance. Scarcity is the monetary policy. And in 2025, at the very top, Pop Mart did what every issuer eventually does when demand looks infinite. Sneaker brands, trading card printers, NFT mints, the Dutch tulip guilds 4 centuries ago. It chose today's revenue over tomorrow's scarcity and debased its own currency at the moment of maximum belief. That's the decision from the cold open. That's the name you didn't know. Hype economies don't die because people stop loving the thing. They die because the issuer eventually always prints. The monster itself will be fine. 9 teeth, permanent cast. An auction record that cemented it the way a headline price cements an artist. The real question is whether the empire built on pulling him out of sealed boxes ever learns the one lesson nobody at the top of a hype cycle wants to hear. the printer is also a shredder. And if you think this only happens to toys, the sports card industry ran this exact same playbook. Twice. In 30 years. That autopsy is next. Subscribe so you're there when the printer starts up again.